The story begins with a high school student named Tommy Riley. For some reason, he's forced to move and start a new life with his father. But their new home is in a rough neighborhood where gangs roam freely.
It's a black game, home. Y'all don't want your whiteness shoving through my hoops. Punk ass, keep walking.
On Tommy's first day at his new school, a group of local teens tries to mess with him. Even worse, it turns out that the 3 bullies who harassed him earlier are in the same class. As a newcomer, Tommy doesn't want to cause any trouble. So when the 3 bullies tell him to switch seats 3 times, he complies. But by the 4th time they tell him to move, he begins to run out of patience.
I'm in your seat. How'd you know that?
This time, even though they demand he moves, Tommy stays put, making the bullies unhappy. Just as a fight is about to break out, the teacher walks in, telling everyone to sit down. Even though the bullies threaten to settle things with Tommy at recess, he lets it go.
I'll get you on the greasy side.
During the break, the bullies confront Tommy again, this time bringing their friends along. But once again, Tommy is saved when another group of gang members interrupts the confrontation.
Well. Abraham Lincoln. Thought you was thrown out of school.
Gang rivalry is a real issue at the school, and fights happen regularly, like today, when the leaders of 2 gangs square off one-on-one in front of the other students. One of them doesn't hesitate to pull out a sharp weapon during the fight. But before a winner can be declared, the teachers show up and the duel is called off. As if school wasn't tough enough, Tommy has to deal with debt collectors when he gets home. In fact, the reason he and his father moved to this new place is because his father racked up a huge gambling debt after Tommy's mother passed away. Now, due to his father's troubles, Tommy has to face 2 debt collectors who show up at his house, guns in hand. Luckily, they don't harm him at all. They only threaten that his father must pay back the 2-week overdue debt. Later that night, Tommy is woken up by his father's return. His father is kind to him, asking about his first day at the new school. At this point, Tommy decides to lie, saying that everything went smoothly, but his father doesn't buy it. He senses that Tommy is hiding something. Tommy has no choice, tells him that 2 debt collectors came by that afternoon. Hearing this makes his father deeply upset. He realizes he's made a mistake that has ruined their lives.
And I'm sorry to bring you into all of this.
He promises Tommy that he'll fix everything. He mentions that he's found a high-paying job in another city, one that will allow him to clear the debt and improve their financial situation.
I'm awake now. I'm not drinking and I'm not gambling and...
On the other hand, Tommy doesn't mind living alone for a while. After all, he's old enough to take care of himself. To ease his father's burden, he takes a dishwashing job at a local restaurant run by his classmates' parents. But one night, the bullies from school show up at the restaurant. As soon as they see Tommy working there, they decide to pick up where they has left off. At first, Tommy tries to endure their provocations, but when they push him on the ground and mock him with stupid grins on their faces, he can't take it anymore. He immediately stands up and punches 2 of them. Just as he's about to take on the 3rd one, an old man he's never met before suddenly steps in and stops the fight. It turns out that this old man is Jack, a local boxing promoter. He claims to like Tommy's fighting style and offers him a chance to compete in an illegal underground boxing match.
Fight you. Box.
Jack is willing to pay him $600, but Tommy refuses right away. Tommy asks for $1,050 for his fight. If Jack isn't willing to pay, he can find someone else who will take a less. After a tough negotiation, Jack finally agrees to his terms. They shake hands in front of the restaurant owner's daughters, Dawn. The next night, Tommy visits the underground fighting venue, where Jack introduces him to Noah. Noah will be training Tommy and taking care of all his needs. Noah's first piece of advice is that the fight he is about to enter is like a war. Fairness in the ring doesn't matter because no one else cares about it. Furthermore, Tommy will be facing Black Death, a fighter notorious for playing dirty. Surprisingly, Tommy runs into his classmate Romano.
You want a circuit now?
No, just tonight.
Who is shocked to hear that Tommy has to fight Black Death in his first match. Romano advises Tommy to be careful of Black Death's right hand when fighting. Taking Romano's advice to heart, Tommy steps into the ring. The entire crowd is betting on Black Death to win, and they erupt in cheers when he enters the arena. Noah isn't wrong. From the moment the fight begins, Black Death plays dirty. He throws elbows at Tommy, causing his temple to bleed. It doesn't stop there, as Black Death lands a full-force punch to Tommy's groin area. Despite the dirty tactics, the referee ignores it all. After all, in this ring, anything is allowed. But after some time, Black Death starts to get tired, giving Tommy the chance to launch a series of attacks that eventually knock him down. Tommy wins the fight, leaving the crowd, the bettors, and the investors in disbelief at what they have just witnessed. When Tommy raises his hand in victory, the crowd roars in celebration. The next day, Tommy is called to meet Jack's boss, Mr. Horn, to collect his payment. However, it is clear that Mr. Horn likes Tommy's performance from the previous night, so he invites Tommy to return and fight for him again. Tommy refuses the offer,
I appreciate the offer, Mr. Horn, but I'm not interested.
stating that he only wants the 1,250s, no more, no less.
Get him.
One day, Tommy crosses paths with Dawn, who can't hide her disappointment when she finds out that Tommy has chosen to become an underground fighter. However, upon learning that he's only fought once, she finally breathes a sigh of relief. Tommy has no interest in becoming a full-time fighter, but everything changes when Jack asks Tommy to meet with Horn again that afternoon. After some small talk, Horn reveals the truth. Those two debt collectors who visited Tommy's home work for him. Worse still, Tommy's father has started gambling again, and the debt has now ballooned to $15,000.
I bought the debts.
Those debts are mine now, and what's mine is yours.
But Horn has a solution, a way to pay off the debt easily. All Tommy has to do is fight for him in a few more matches. As expected, Tommy accepts the offer to settle his father's debt. On his way home from Horn's place, Tommy accidentally witnesses his classmate Lincoln getting ambushed by a group of gang members. Determined to help, Tommy joins the fight, but the two of them are quickly outnumbered and forced to flee from the pursuing gang members. After they manage to escape, Tommy and Lincoln talk, and Lincoln reveals that, despite his young age, he already has a wife and child.
That's my lady, Laura Lee.
That's why, like Tommy, Lincoln chooses to make money by becoming an underground boxer to support his family. Later that night, Tommy decides to watch Lincoln's fight. His new friend seems to be getting overpowered by his much bigger opponent. But in the end, Lincoln manages to turn the tide quickly and win the fight. By this point, Tommy can't suppress his curiosity about Horn any longer. So, after Lincoln's match, Tommy goes to Noah's house to ask about Horn's background. It turns out that Horn is a former boxer who even won the World Heavyweight Championship. Even more impressive, he has only lost once in his entire boxing career. After that loss, he immediately got revenge in a rematch, causing his opponent a lifelong injury. But in the end, even this incredible boxer has to retire after suffering a serious leg injury. Despite undergoing multiple surgeries, by the time his leg heals, his prime years are over. He is too old to return to the ring, so he decides to become a boxing promoter, a job that brings him plenty of money without the risk of injury. Several days pass since Dawn last visits Tommy while he is training. She's getting worried because he hasn't shown up at school lately. Tommy eventually opens up about the family problems that have been haunting him and how they have forced him back into the illegal boxing ring.
Yeah, well, I guess that was a lie, because I gotta fight 4 more times.
Fortunately, Dawn understands his situation and they grow even closer. Life seems better than ever after Tommy becomes an underground fighter. Dawn is always by his side at his events, and they start a romantic relationship. Moreover, he develops a close friendship with Romano and Lincoln, with whom he practices and hangs out every day. However, tragedy strikes during one fight involving Romano. That night, Romano faces an opponent named Shortcut, who is clearly not as skilled as him. Romano dominates the fight from the beginning, but when the match reaches the 5th round, Shortcut secretly drips a mysterious liquid onto his gloves. When the fight resumes, Shortcut locks Romano in a chokehold, forcing him to inhale whatever is on the gloves. As soon as Shortcut releases his grip, Romano's vision blurs and he can no longer fight properly. Shortcut takes full advantage of this, brutally beating him. Even as Romano bleeds, Shortcut shows no signs of stopping, as though he enjoys the process of torturing his opponent. From the sidelines, Tommy witnesses the horror unfolding in the ring, and he can't stand it anymore.
Stop the fight!
With the referee showing no intention of stopping the fight, Tommy runs to the bell and rings it himself, forcing the match to end. But by then, Romano has already collapsed unconscious in the corner of the ring. When Tommy returns home, he gets a call from his father, who sounds oddly casual, as if nothing has happened. His father only asks how Tommy is doing and explains that he has to delay his return because he has some unfinished business to take care of. The next day, Tommy visits Romano in the hospital, but unfortunately, his friend is still unconscious. The doctors declare him brain dead. Of course, Tommy can't just let the person responsible for Romano's condition walk free. His chance for revenge finally comes when he faces Shortcut in the ring.
How's Romano? Is he dead yet? I mean, he dead, ain't he?
Once again, Shortcut tries to pull his dirty tricks on Tommy, but this time they don't work. Tommy has seen how Shortcut drips the liquid onto his gloves in the fight against Romano. In fact, Tommy decides to fight dirty himself, striking Shortcut in the groin, causing him to cry out in pain. Tommy then unleashes a series of ruthless punches, showing no mercy. Tommy ultimately wins the fight in the first round. With Romano gone, Lincoln is Tommy's only close friend. But one day, something happens to Lincoln during training. His body suddenly weakens, and for some unknown reason, he collapses. It turns out that he suffered a severe blow to the head the previous week, and now he is showing symptoms of brain damage. That's why the doctors tell him he needs to rest for at least 60 days. Otherwise, he risks permanent brain damage. But Horn has other plans for Lincoln. Later that night, Tommy is confused to see the opponent he's supposed to fight engaged in a match with another boxer. So he goes to Horn to ask what is going on. That's when Horn reveals his plan. He wants Tommy to fight Lincoln, and Lincoln has agreed to it.
I'm not fighting Lincoln.
You're gonna fight Lincoln and you're gonna beat him, and I'm gonna make a lot of money.
Of course, this makes Tommy furious with Lincoln. Given Lincoln's condition, he shouldn't be fighting, and most importantly, Tommy is afraid of losing another friend. But no matter what he says, Lincoln is determined to go through with the fight. After all, this is his big chance to prove himself to Horn, who has promised to elevate him to the professional level if he wins.
I got no choice, Ghost. This is my ticket.
Tommy realizes he can't change Lincoln's mind, so he tries to persuade Horn to cancel the fight. But his efforts are in vain. Day after day passes until the fight between Tommy and Lincoln finally arrives. It is billed as the biggest match in the underground boxing circuit, and naturally, Dawn is there to see her boyfriend fight. However, Tommy isn't enthusiastic about the match, which is a sharp contrast to Lincoln's aggressive attitude. Sure enough, as soon as the first round bell rings, Lincoln launches an all-out attack on Tommy. Meanwhile, Tommy is passive. He doesn't strike back even when Lincoln knocks him down. His behavior infuriates Lincoln.
Ghost! Fight me, I'ma hurt you bad!
If the fight continues this way, Horn won't pay them, and Horn doesn't like boring fights. The audience feels the same way. During the break, after the second round, Horn grabs Dawn and threatens Tommy, saying that if he doesn't start fighting seriously, he can do whatever he wants with her. But for whatever reason, Tommy refuses to hit Lincoln. One punch to Lincoln's head could be fatal. In the end, to satisfy Horn and the crowd, Tommy lands a single punch on Lincoln. He then tries to convince Lincoln to stop the pointless fight, arguing that even if one of them dies, Horn won't care. He only cares about the money.
Horn wants us to kill each other. For what? So he can get rich?
But Lincoln responds to all his words by hitting him in the head. At that point, Tommy gives up trying to persuade Lincoln. If Lincoln is so desperate for Horn's money, Tommy is willing to go all out on him. But to Tommy's surprise, Lincoln finally realizes the truth in his words. This doesn't feel right. They shouldn't be fighting each other. So Lincoln chooses to stop the fight without finishing it, much to the disappointment of the audience. Horn is frustrated, but more importantly, he is furious. He storms into the ring and tells Lincoln to finish the fight. However, Lincoln refuses. He declares that from now on, he will no longer kick it for Horn. This decision seems to push Horn over the edge. Without saying a word, he punches Lincoln in the head, sending him flying out of the ring. By now, Tommy has seen enough. He realizes that Horn has gone too far. It is time to teach him a lesson, to show him how despicable his actions have been. For this reason, Tommy steps into the ring and challenges Horn to a duel. If Tommy wins, Horn will have to clear his father's debt. But if Horn wins, Tommy will work for him forever. Horn agrees to the terms, but adds one condition: they will fight without gloves. As a former boxing champion, Horn has a wealth of experience, giving him the upper hand. This is clear from how he mocks and humiliates Tommy in the early stages of the fight, but Horn's arrogance becomes his downfall. Tommy might be young, but he is smart. He quickly learns how to counter Horn's moves, using that knowledge to turn the tables. First, Tommy deliberately lets Horn hit his head, which results in one of Horn's fingers getting broken. Then, Tommy goads Horn into anger, just as Horn had done to him at the start of the fight. By observing Horn's reactions, Tommy realizes that rage is his weakness. But exploiting that alone isn't enough to win. So, Tommy pretends to have broken his right arm, catching Horn off guard. At the perfect moment, Tommy lands a powerful punch to Horn's face, followed by 13 more strikes, knocking him down for good. With Horn's defeat, Tommy and his father are finally free from their debt. The film ends with Tommy celebrating his victory alongside Lincoln and Dawn. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one.